Jordan Love avoids a major injury, but still an MCL injury that could keep him out. We don't quite know how long exactly. That means Malik Willis. What do you got? We'll talk about it next on Locked On Packers.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. You can follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. You can follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook, subscribe to the podcast to iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Jordan Love has an MCL sprain. According to Ian Rappaport, it is somewhere between a grade 1 and a grade 2. Okay. We don't really know what that means, but according to his reporting, the Packers are thinking 3 weeks and it could be less. So, does that mean he's going to miss 3 games? They have the mini bye heading into week 2, so that's 10 days. Does that play into this? Is he going to be able to practice in week 4 for the Vikings? Would he be able to miss week 4 and then go to week 5 and play that week? We don't know the answer to any of those questions, and maybe we will get them coming up. What we did get reported from Jay Glazer is that Malik Willis is set to be the starter. There is a little lead up that we need to get to there, though, because according to Diana Rossini, the reporting was the Packers reached out to Ryan Tannehill. There were some discussions there. Tom Pelissero then reported that the Packers had not and would not reach out to veterans. They're riding with Malik Willis. Now, there is one way that both of those things can be true, at least in a way. Brian Gutekunst and Ryan Tannehill have the same agent. So Brian Gutekunst could have called or texted his agent and said, do you think Ryan would do this? The agent says no. And they move on. So did they reach out? Kind of. But can they also say, no, we didn't? I think so. The moral of the story is, they decided Malik Willis was their guy. And remember, they made this trade for Malik Willis when there were reports that the Browns were taking quarterback offers for their group of quarterbacks. Now, maybe it's good they didn't trade them because it looks like they may need them. Deshaun Watson looks like an absolute disaster yet again. This is not circumstantial. This is not just shaking the rust off. He just absolutely stinks on ice now. If the Packers are only going to miss Love for 2 weeks, if it's like they're looking at it as 2 weeks, maybe 3, then, okay, Malik Willis works. And you have a game against the Colts, who just held their own against the Texans, but thanks to some incredible big play stuff from Anthony Richardson, we'll get to that at the end. And then the Titans, who blew a 17-0 lead, lost a game 24-17 in a game where the Bears did not score an offensive touchdown. This is like classic Bear stuff. It's like 2006 all over again. So I don't know why anyone would be scared of Will Levis and what that team is. That team thought they were much better than they are. They're not. These are 2 winnable games for the Packers if that's what they have to do. The question is, if it's going to be Malik Willis, and it looks like it is, what does that look like? And the first thing is, I went back to 2019 And I had a bunch of notes and some film study on the Matt LaFleur offense in Tennessee with Marcus Mariota. And Marcus Mariota in that season, okay, he was playing with a damaged nerve in his throwing arm. Blaine Gabbert also got snaps that season in 2018. Marcus Mariota's career completion percentage is 62.7. His second best completion percentage as a starter, okay, as a preferred starter is 62.2%. His second best. The year he was the starter, the year he started 13 games in Tennessee, his completion percentage was 68.9%. His QBR in 2018 with Matt LaFleur was better than Aaron Rodgers' QBR in 2019 with Matt LaFleur. And that Tennessee team had Corey Davis and no one else to throw the ball to. Delanie Walker also, but Delanie Walker got hurt that season. And when you look at it, his yards per game in terms of passing came way down, but his efficiency was still good. And part of that was they used his legs to pretty good effect. They had zone reads in the game plan. They had a lot of interesting things and interesting ways to deploy that group of personnel. And they had some designer game plans. The Patriots game in particular was something that I just was salivating over. They're going to have to do that with Malik Willis, where it's going to have to be zone reads. There's these quarterback designed runs now that Malik Willis was using in Tennessee. And that is, Brian Callahan is a Zach Taylor coach. Zach Taylor is a McVay coach. Matt LaFleur is a McVay coach. Now, Malik Willis, apparently the verbiage was not quite the same, and so there's going to be an adjustment period there. He does have the extra time now to understand he's the starter, but it's not like, you come back on Friday night into Saturday morning, you get back. You really have an extra day, and that's your jet lag day to recover and watch tape and get up to speed. Now, Malik Willis will tell you he prepared in week 1 like he was going to start, and that's what every quarterback is going to tell you, and that's what every coach is going to tell you he wants every player to do. But first of all, not every player does that. And also, it's not the same when you're playing behind someone like Jordan Love, who's an entrenched starter. There's no chance he's going to have a bad week of practice and you might just be in there. I believe Matt LaFleur can use the traits that Malik Willis has. Malik Willis, Tyler Rowland from Locked On Titans is going to join us tomorrow for Expert Tuesday to talk more about Malik Willis at length. So I don't want to do all of that here. But he has tremendous arm talent. Go watch the QB school on him in the preseason. It's 3 attempts, but he's got 2 touchdowns. And then the quarterback run game is a big part of what he can do. And I've always believed that there's value. 2 things is true, and they can be at odds at times. I have believed at various points that it's nice to have a backup quarterback who can just run your offense. If you have a running quarterback, it's nice to have a running quarterback who's also your backup. But what I also believe is true is if you have a quarterback like Kirk Cousins, who is your main quarterback, then it is really nice to have a backup who is not like Kirk Cousins, because you're probably not going to get anyone that good. And so what you need is someone who can create a little bit of chaos, who can give you a different look. It's why I think Sean Payton had some success with Taysom Hill, because you can just come in and run wonky stuff that there's no tape on. There's no tape on Malik Willis running zone read for the Green Bay Packers. There's no tape of him running quarterback power and these quarterback sweeps that he's running in Tennessee. But he's a legit 4-4 kind of athlete with bona fide NFL arm strength. He can make wow throws. He's cleaned up some mechanics in the pocket. There's been clear progress. We heard Tyler Rowland, if you're an everydayer, a week or so ago when this trade was made. I guess that's probably 2 or 3 weeks ago now. What is time? But he said, look, there was real progress being made in Tennessee. it just didn't work out there. The Packers view this like Sean Clifford is not coming in. Like I understood the idea of, hey, if they need him to start week 1 or week 2, you got Sean Clifford. I've come to the conclusion that's ridiculous. They saw Sean Clifford all year, decided he's not good enough, and so they kicked that dude to the curb for Malik Willis. Malik Willis is going to be your guy. And I think for a 2-game sample against an uncommon opponent anyway, so that makes it even more difficult. These teams don't have like built-in muscle memory of what to do against the Packers. Like if you're playing the Bears or the Vikings or the Lions or even the Cowboys, for example, the 49ers, they know the Packers well enough. They know the personnel well enough. They know the coaches well enough to be able to manage that. This is going to be different. And I believe in Matt LaFleur's ability to create some one-off game plans for Malik Willis. I like having a guy who's going to run around and make some plays, make a couple throws, just don't beat you. Don't beat yourself. Don't have him, be the reason you lose. And hope that someone like Anthony Richardson, someone like Will Levis, they can be, because their teams need them to win a little bit more, that their volatility is ultimately what gets you the win. I want to talk more about what happened on Friday after having some time to digest, to watch, to rewatch, to take a lot of notes. We will do that next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active viewers. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less with a stat on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you win. You can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Plus, you have this huge range of players, of stats, and of sports. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDON on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to get the bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends at BetterHelp. What's something you'd love to learn? As an adult, do you make time to learn new things as often as you like, or was that lost in childhood? Kids are always learning, growing. I see it with my kids all the time. It's remarkable to see. But as adults, sometimes we lose that curiosity. Therapy can help you reconnect with your sense of wonder because back to school can come at any age. Therapy is the kind of thing that can help you connect to yourself, to find what you're passionate about or what you want to be passionate about. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. So just fill out a brief questionnaire and get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Rediscover your curiosity with BetterHelp. That's BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. And thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen. The new Locked On NFL is here. Locked On NFL is now 2 shows every day. First, the madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso, and then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. It's the new Locked On NFL, and it's twice a day. Make the madman Tyler Rowland in the barbershop with Tony Wiggins your second listen at the new Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. On rewatch, a couple things stood out to me, and then you dive into, okay, what were the snap reports? The big one is the linebacker play. This three linebacker front is only as good as your linebackers will let it be. And the Packers were playing pretty contained on the edges. They were not just flying upfield. And there has to be something that is a little counterintuitive or a little even, I can't think of the perfect word here, and I'm going to think of it as soon as we finish recording here, and it's going to annoy me. But there is something where you go, we've been doing this all offseason, all training camp, where we're just go. Get in the backfield, get in the backfield, get in the backfield, get in the backfield. And then you go week 1 against Jalen Hurts. Okay, just get a little bit in the backfield, push the pocket, but you have to stay disciplined in your rush lanes. And that's in your mind because of Jalen Hurts. If he breaks the pocket, he can kill you. It's the same thing with Anthony Richardson. You're going to have to be ready for the quarterback run game. The Packers did a great job defending the quarterback run game against the Eagles. It's hard for me to blame the pass rush in a game where you're trying to contain the quarterback. Now, Derek Carraher wrote a great piece for Packer Report detailing some of the changes in structure. There was less disguise. And I didn't chart it. He charted it. It seemed about on par with last year, which is almost exactly what it was in terms of pre-snap disguise. The Packers didn't even blitz as much as Joe Barry did on average. Now, they brought more all-out pressure. They brought more zero pressure, more DB pressure. When they brought pressure, it wasn't just, hey, add a linebacker to the formation and go. And I think also those last year's numbers are a little inflated with penny personnel because it's 3 defensive linemen and 2 ends. And so it's an extra rusher, but it's not really. It's really just your 5-man front. But there's more there creatively for Jeff Hafley that I think they were trying to play very disciplined. My guess is that's going to be the plan in week 2 against Anthony Richardson, who can also kill you with his feet. I don't think that's going to be the case with Will Levis. I don't think that's going to be the case with Sam Darnold. For most of the quarterbacks the Packers see this year, I don't think that's going to be the case. So there is a little bit of this that you're just going, okay, I don't know what to make of some of this, but the linebacker play is not one of those things. It just wasn't good enough. And Eric Wilson gave way to Edgerrin Cooper. Edgerrin Cooper, all he did was make plays. I hope that he is not this year's Devontae Wyatt in that, every year, Devontae Wyatt's rookie year, he would get 10 snaps at the end of a game or, mix in he get 2 snaps in the second quarter, 2 snaps in the third quarter, 3 snaps in the fourth quarter. And then at the end, he's got a 92 PFF grade and everyone's going, whoa, this checks out. He made a couple legit impact in 15 snaps. He made a couple impact plays. At the beginning of training camp and going back to the spring, he was your starting linebacker in nickel. He was running with Quay Walker in the nickel. For whatever reason, when they were in that heavy personnel with 3 true linebackers off the ball, he wasn't out there. I don't know why that would be, but he wasn't. He's just got to be out there. He's healthy now. You wanted to play him there. It's over. He's got to just play there. They have to get better play. We talked about it after the show. This was one of those things where I think continuity-wise, I think footing-wise, it's just going to be better in their own building with an NFL curated surface. It's a little hard to take too much from someone like Javon Bullard on his missed tackle. He slipped. How much did the footing affect their ability to play confidently, to drive on throws? I don't know. But I don't think it played zero role. So we'll learn more about that. I'm still very encouraged about what I saw from the secondary. I thought the secondary played overall very well. Tucker Kraft he's your starting tight end. He played way more. He was almost out there every time they had a tight end on the field. He was out there. And Luke Musgrave was mostly out there in 2 tight end sets. Some in 11 personnel. That's something to watch, but it makes sense because Kraft is your dirty work guy. We'll see about the offensive line rotation. Josh Myers said after the game that, yes, he was also hurt on the Jordan Love play, but he was cramping. It seemed like, and we haven't gotten clarity on what the Love injury was, if there was an injury before the MCL, because he was getting work done. He did not seem to be planting and driving. I was thinking cramps. It seemed like they were working his muscles all over his lower body, like it was a cramp thing. It's hot in Brazil. It's humid. It wasn't that night though. It's winter there. I think it was 63 at kick. But with the travel, you get dehydrated traveling. There's a lot of reasons why it could happen. And it's your first game. especially for the big boys. Like that's a lot more work than they're used to do. So Jordan Morgan was part of that platoon. Sean Ryan ultimately played more snaps, but part of that is he was playing center. Josh Myers was in and out. So that does seem like a true platoon at this point. My guess is that's going to be Jordan Morgan's job either this week or next week. Just done. We'll see. I didn't think Sean Ryan was terrible necessarily, but we'll see. We'll see what it looks like. And the receivers, I just have to mention it because, there's been some negativity here in this segment. Jayden Reed is just everything you want. Just going back and rewatching, you remember, the play that didn't count, the touchdown, when he's open down the seam and he bounces off a tackler and finds his balance and scores. It doesn't count, but it's still an incredible play. The incredible catch along the sidelines on a preposterous throw from Jordan Love. The run, like we freaked out about Xavier Worthy. It's a very similar play. He has to break a couple tackles, cut back, incredible stuff. The 70-yard touchdown, he leaves a man in the dust. It's just really, he is a really exciting player to think about how he can be in this offense. The Packers, I know I'm gilding the lily on this, but 414 yards of offense. Romeo Doubs was a no-show. Dontavian Wicks was a no-show. Luke Musgrave was a no-show. And Jordan Love was meh. Fine. High variance. 414 yards of offense. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. And it starts next week with the Indianapolis Colts. So we saw them on the field for the first time. Let's just get an early look at what we're going to see from the Colts because we did our post-game show. We actually get to do this a day early, a little bit. So we're gonna kick it off. We'll do that next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Brewers playing, playoffs. Packers playing, Lambeau. Bucks coming up here. Game Time wants to get you into all of your favorite live events. And they have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you the only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You don't want to do that. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, but also concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Plus, all-in prices. All-in prices lets you show yourself what you're getting up front. No surprise fees at checkout. Plus, get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Thanks for everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. The new Locked On NFL is here. Locked On NFL is now 2 days, 2 shows every day. First, the madman Tyler Rowland kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Plus, the Locked On local experts that get you unprecedented NFL insights. That's me. Hot opinions, detailed breakdowns, all in 30 minutes. Check out the new Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. The Colts covered, which is important to me personally, against the Tennessee Titans, a 29-27 loss at home. You say, okay, well, they held their own against the Texans then, right? Well, yes and no. The Texans put up 417 yards of offense. And you go, that sounds pretty cool. Except the same thing as I mentioned with the Eagles, 5.5 yards per play. They had the ball a ton. The Colts used the big play. They averaged, much like the Packers, 7 yards per play. They very much should feel like they should have won this game. And the only reason that they had a chance to win this game is because Anthony Richardson made some of the most ridiculous throws you will ever see. 3 throws of 50 or more air yards. 3 of them. He had three throws We had a 60-yard completion, a 57-yard completion, and a 54-yard completion. I guess only two of them were 50-air yards. But only one of them was a catch and run. The other two were like absolutely launched. And so you go, okay, that sounds pretty good. But he finished 9 of 19 for 212, which is a crazy number. 212 yards on 9 completions. But if you do the math there, you don't even have to do the math. Outside of those 3 completions that I mentioned, he's 6 for 16 for 41 yards and a pick. So that's pretty inconsistent. That's pretty bad. It seems like if you can avoid giving him those kinds of opportunities to just huck it deep, you'll be in good position. The Packers played more quarters than I thought they would in this game. Maybe we see more too high looks, but then the Colts are just going to run the crap out of the ball. Anthony Richardson himself had 56 yards on 6 carries, including an absolutely dominant run for the touchdown. Jonathan Taylor didn't do much. 16 carries for 48 yards. They did not, they tried to establish the run, but they were not really establishing the run. The only reason they were competitive in this game, by the way, 14 points in the fourth quarter, is the explosive plays. 2 to Alec Pierce and 1 to Ashton Doolin. Yes, I said Alec Pierce, former Packer Twitter favorite. This is going to be somewhat like the Eagles game in that if you limit the explosive plays, it's going to be, and on a far different level, it'll be much more difficult for Indianapolis to score without explosive plays than it was for Philly. Because it's not what their offense is right now. Shane Steichen is a very good coach, comes from Philadelphia. His loss in Philadelphia was felt in a major way. Now, defensively, CJ Stroud had a 115 passer rating with 2 touchdowns and no picks. There's a lot of underneath stuff. The key was they ran all over Indianapolis. 213 yards on the ground on 40 carries, over 5 yards per carry, and they made Joe Mixon look really good. 30 carries for 159 and a tutty. Joe Mixon looked washed, capital W washed last year. To me, no juice, no burst. Maybe he was hurt. I would get it. He looked great in this game, and I think part of that is because Indianapolis, they play light on the edge, and you know more or less what you're going to get with their defense. They tell you what they're going to give you, and then they give it to you. So, again, this is where I think the Packers can say, we have a game plan for what you're going to do. We know what you're going to do. We know what this personnel is. We know the corners aren't very good. I think you're going to see the Packers run on the edge a lot in this game with Malik Willis, with Josh Jacobs, with Emmanuel Wilson, hopefully with Marshawn Lloyd if he gets a chance to get a full week of practice. And I'm excited to see what this Packers run game can do, quarterback included, on this Colts team. You want to wear down a defense? Even if the Colts hit, 2 or 3, again, big plays, eventually you wear down defensively. So we're going to talk more about Malik Willis. We'll talk more about the Colts later in the week, crossover Thursday. We still have Zayu doing on Wednesday. Still much more to come here on Locked On Packers for week 2. No victory Monday, unfortunately, but a week from today, hopefully we'll be able to do that. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers. And anytime you want to come hang out with us live, like we will be on Sunday afternoon after the game, a Sunday afternoon kick, mercifully, you can do that. Come hang out with us over on YouTube so you can stay Locked On Packers.